Hey gang, Lou here from Jersey Shore Fabricators. Well, here it is, April 2018. A little behind schedule on getting videos out, but I am not a video content producer. I don't have a video production team, I don't have an audio production team, it's just me. So it's been a long, cold, hard winter here in New Jersey. And April, we still are getting snow and all kinds of wacky temperatures all over the place. But we're back, we're here. So, people ask me a lot of questions about what kind of car should I buy? Well, it depends. You're buying a car, you're buying a truck, you're buying an SUV. What do you want to use it for? Do you want a resto mod? Do you want a hot rod? Do you want to go fast? Do you want to go low and slow? Are you looking for a dedicated off-road truck? Well, that has to be answered by you. You got to figure out what you're going to use it for, and then, most importantly, you got to figure out what your budget is. There's an old phrase out there, speed costs money, how fast do you want to go? Same thing goes with being cool. So today we're going to talk about the off-road segment, and you have three classifications that I would say. You have your mauler crawlers or trailer queens. You have your dual-purpose rigs. They see the street and they see the dirt. And then of course you have your dedicated off-road trucks. And we're not going to get into the different classes of race trucks and all that, but you know, we're going to stick with what most people can afford. So, today's subject. We have a 2018 Wrangler in the shop. It's stock. It's kind of boring, but the owner started doing some upgrades to it, did some cosmetic upgrades. We're going to help him out with a few other things. If you own a Jeep Wrangler, a JK, even the JLs, the one thing that everybody's going to talk about is how slow they are. It's a big, heavy truck. It's shaped like a brick, and it's got a little 200 horsepower or 180 horsepower motor in it. So by the time the power gets through the drivetrain to the back wheels, you're left with about, I don't know, 130, 140 horsepower. And then you throw on a set of 35-inch tires and not change your gearing, and you know, now you're going as slow as you possibly can. But we're going to fix that. And it's all right in that box. And here is that box. It's kind of a big box. Now let's see what's inside of it. Alright, so what we got here is the RIPP supercharger kit for the 08 to 12, 07 to 12 Jeep JK. This is a complete kit. You get your supercharger, air filter, oil for it, new belt, your boost tubes, your clamps, fittings, bolts, new injectors, 6 new spark plugs. You get your silicone boots, you get a new map sensor, you get an intercooler, and you get a Diablo tuner. This is the way the kits should be put together. So when it comes to performance modifications on these trucks, you have some options. You can buy an eBay turbo kit or a twin turbo kit and put it together and hope it's all going to work. Hope to get the computer to play nice with everything. You could do a V8 swap. You could do an LS. You can do a Hemi, or you can do an LS. But it's going to cost you money. You know, a shop to do an LS swap is going to cost you probably somewhere around $10,000. You want a Hemi, you're talking $15,000 to $20,000. If you want a Hellcat motor, start selling body parts. You know, so where does that leave you? Well, it leaves you with a nice bolt-on supercharger kit. Now, is this the end-all, be-all? No, of course not. But dollar for dollar, $5,500 for that kit, versus $10,000 for a V8 swap, and to get just about the same rear wheel horsepower, about 240 horsepower at the rear wheels, you know, and it's bolt-on, it's really the way to go. And if you live someplace like here in the Republic of New Jersey, a V8 swap isn't an option. You'll never get through inspection. Or if you live in California, you'll never get through inspection. Has to be the same size motor that came with it from the factory, or an option at least. And as we all know, the JKs never came with a V8. Shame on FCA for that. So what we're going to do is we're going to put on that exhaust system. We're going to put on that supercharger. We're going to put on a matching RIPP catback exhaust system. We're going to do a 4-inch lift on this. We're going to do a gear change. We're going to put on bigger brakes, or better brakes rather, not bigger brakes. Some 35-inch tires, and hopefully at that point this Jeep actually becomes fun to drive. Now I'm going to do all this off camera because, again, like I said, I am by myself. I don't have an audio team, production team, any of that fun stuff. And really, I'm short on time. So I'm just going to go ahead and get this knocked out. If there's anything of substance that comes up, I'll let you know. But you can go out any place out on YouTube. There's a couple of really great detailed instructional videos on how to put this in start to finish, where they use the older system where you actually had to download your tune, email it to Diablo, they send it back to you, and then you upload it to the computer. I don't know if this is the same. I haven't even looked at the directions here because, well, we don't read directions. So I'm going to go ahead and tear into it, and if anything comes up, I'll be back, and if not, I'll take you for a drive. Now, when we talk about routine maintenance, here's the reason why. On the right, you'll see a nice new spark plug. It's an NGK. Comes with the kit for the supercharger. On the left is the original one. It's been in there for 122,000 miles. The center electrode is gone, and the diode rather, and the electrode up top is worn pretty badly on one side. So this is why routine maintenance is important. Probably part of the reason why this truck runs like crap and runs the way it does. So just helpful hint, change your plugs. Another quick tip, when you're doing your plugs, throw some anti-seize on it. It'll make it a lot easier the next time the plugs have to come out. And also on the inside of your spark plug boots, use some dielectric grease. Just need a little dab in there just so that you don't have to kill yourself taking them off, well, like I am on this one. Now, another tech tip while you're in here, if you're doing anything like this or just working on injectors in general, be careful, because sometimes when you pull the injectors out, you see here this lower O-ring is missing. It's still in the intake manifold. So while you got everything apart, now is the time to do an inspection, do some cleaning, take a little pick, hook, pull out the O-rings, clean out the mating surfaces where the O-rings go into the manifold. Try not to get too much junk down in the cylinder. I like to use brake clean myself and a little stainless steel wire brush. But while you got everything apart, this mess, now is the time to go through and do some preventative maintenance or necessary maintenance. You know, we know we have to change the belt, so there's 120,000 miles. Well, why not change the tensioner, and why not change the idler pulley? The other thing we're going to do, again 120,000 miles, seeing how the spark plugs were, is we're going to change the plug wires. Now the plug wires leave from here and go around the back of the motor. Well, the top of the intake is off. Here's the other spark plug wires. Now is the time to do this kind of work. Because the last thing you want to do is get it all together, go to start it up, and 3,000 miles, 2,000 miles, you got a dead cylinder because of a bad spark plug wire. They're cheap. It's fairly easy to do while it's all apart like this. Now is the time. And another tip for you if you're working on that 3.8 V6, when you take the injectors out, it's not just the injectors you're taking out. You have these little seats right here. These are going to be down inside where the fuel injectors go into the motor. These got to come out too, as well as with the O-ring. Alright gang, so at this point, things are moving along. New map sensor is in. Got 6 new injectors in down here. 6 new spark plugs. 6 new spark plug wires. New tensioner. And a new idler pulley. Like I said, now is the time to do these preventative maintenance things. If it sounds like I'm repeating myself, it's because I am. Guys, now is the time. Do it right. That way you're not back in here, 3 months from now, trying to do something else. Everything is new. You're starting off with the best starting point that you can. The other thing to remember is that, the supercharger is belt driven. You don't want a weak tensioner on it. You're going to lose boost. So, take the time, do it right. The other thing is that they supply in a PCV valve to keep boost from going into the crankcase. There's an arrow on it. Make sure you follow the arrow that it points towards the engine. Okay, well, let's get the supercharger on. Okay, so the RIPP supercharger is now more or less installed. I got to zip tie a vacuum line, zip tie the oil line, put the vent in. First impressions, mediocre. Now, I know that these have been out for a long time. Other people have installed them. Good for you. Glad you had a good time. Me, this was supposed to be a fun project, and we're into this for almost 11 hours. Now, that's counting, you know, doing all the preventative maintenance stuff that I talked about earlier. A couple of little gotchas that I got here. One, where the air filter is, you have this line that comes off, goes to the crankcase. Well, this little tiny tube is supposed to go inside this big hose. They don't give you a clamp for that. All right, no big deal. Put a clamp on it. Now, as far as the piping for the intercooler, it is tight, to say the least. And by tight, I mean good luck. We did have to cut quite a bit out of here to get this to clear. Just about rests up against the headlight housing. They tell you to put the intercooler in first. Don't do it. You'll never get everything together. Leave everything loose. Leave all your clamps loose. Come over to this side to the outlet of the intercooler, and where this pipe comes around and goes up, well, that's where they put everything together. So you got to kind of sneak your hands down here and hold those clamps in place while you tighten them up. Where it makes the turn to go up to the throttle body, it's not really a great angle. I mean, this is tight, but if you look, I got a little bit of a gap in the hose here. Now, it's tight on the hose, but, I mean, is it going to blow off? Is it going to leak? I don't know. Time will tell. The grommet for the air intake temp sensor, yeah, first time I went to go put that in, fell right through and had to take everything apart and go fish that out. The vacuum line here for the blow-off valve comes up and to the top of the intake manifold, and they tell you to cut this line, they tell you to cut this line right about here. If you do that, this is about 3 inches too short, so I just cut a little bit off the line here and made the T there. There's no issues with the hood closing. It's really tight between the alternator and air conditioning to where the piping comes in. So one of the things I was talking about before about now's the time to do this. This is why now is the time to do this, because now, yeah, good luck doing any of that. Changing the belt or tensioner or idler or anything. So really last thing left to do is this plug's got to come out. There's a vent that goes in, and we'll fire it up and, well, see if anything blows up. Okay, so here it is running. First time I started up, I had a code. I didn't have the TPS plugged in all the way. My fault. But you know, I used the Diablo that came with it, read it, cleared it, plugged it back in. Everything's good now. It's idling fine. Noisy little sucker. All that noise you hear is actually the intake on the filter here. Haven't taken it down the road yet. Taking it down the road. Taking it? Taking it. Whatever. Haven't taken it down the road yet, but, you know, the belt alignment is good. Nothing really funny going on there. No fuel leaks from the injectors. Got all the plug wires in the right spot. So, all in all, that part of it was a success. Now it's on to exhaust, lift kit, and whatever else I find wrong with it.